Hi, this is David Miller, and I'm here with the second in a series of 5 mini-lectures on Philip Pullman's novel, The Golden Compass. Today we're going to talk about the fields of evil. We saw last time that Part 1 of The Golden Compass was organized into 9 chapters, falling neatly into 3 groups of 3, as Lyra moves from Oxford to London to the Egyptians and their expedition. Part 2 is organized a bit differently. It has 8 chapters, and they fall into pairs, which then pair off a second time into groups of 4, like this. And each group of 4 corresponds to one of the 2 movements in this section. They're presided over by the dominant figures of Yorick for the first movement and Mrs. Coulter for the second. Now, the first pair of chapters introduces several new characters who will be important to the story, starting, of course, with the armored bear, Yorick Burnison, but also the aeronaut, Lee Scoresby, the race of witches, one of whom has a history with Farder Coram. Chapter 10 gives us a good deal of important background information. We learn what it means for a demon to settle, and this is important for our understanding of what the child cutters do, because they sever the child's tie to its demon before puberty, when it chooses a permanent form. From the witch consul Martin Lancelius, we learn about the origins of the alethiometer, invented in the 17th century for use as an astrological instrument. Lyra calls him Dr. Lancelius. I'm pretty sure he must have a PhD in English literature. And when he explains the origins of the symbols used by the alethiometer in emblematic habits of mind that go back to the Renaissance, he adds real resonance to the motif I've been calling scenes of reading. What this passage suggests is that Lyra reads the ultimate truths of the universe by interpreting traditional literary symbolism, though she does this intuitively and not as a form of analytic thinking. Naturally, I consider this to be a brilliant stroke on the part of Pullman, who also has a degree in English literature. I did not include saving the universe among the learning outcomes for this class, but we do hope to make good symbol readers of you all. And of course, if you remember this scene clearly, you know that Lyra reads Dr. Lancelius, too. Farder Coram is pretending they don't know how to read the alethiometer when Lyra sees signs of agitation in the consul's demon and interrupts with the truth. One of a number of occasions when she takes control of the story away from her adult caretakers based on her skill as a reader of people and situations. Also from Martin Lancelius, we learn more about the mysterious prophecies concerning Lyra, namely that she must fulfill her destiny in ignorance of what she is doing. It's worth pointing out that if Lyra has to be kept in ignorance of her destiny, then we must assume that the dust chooses not to reveal it. This means that there is, in fact, a limit to Lyra's ability to control her own story, a limit set not by her father or any other patriarch, but by the demands of the story itself. Because in order for the narration to function properly, both we and Lyra must be kept in certain kinds of ignorance. In our case, for the sake of suspense and the gradual unfolding of our understanding. In Lyra's, for the sake of a destiny she would not willingly fulfill could she see all that lies ahead of her. The second part of the chapter introduces us to Yorick Burnison. Yorick is a fascinating character for many reasons, among them his resemblance to the children taken by the gobblers. He, too, has been cut. As he explains to Lyra, bears may not have demons, but his soul is his armor, and the men of Trollesund have hidden it from him. In the next chapter, Lyra will secure his services to help rescue the children by telling him where his armor is hidden. In effect, she rescues Yorick from intercision before they go on to Bolvangar to rescue the children. Before this happens, Lyra awakens on board the Egyptian's ship to see an extraordinary display of the aurora, even envisioning the city in the sky as she goes into a deep, trance-like state of heightened awareness. She is brought out of her trance by the arrival of a beautiful great gray goose, the demon of the witch, Seraphina Pekkala. Hey, how'd that get in here? The goose tells the Egyptians about Bolvangar and explains to them how to get there. He also tells them about the millions of parallel universes that coexist with their own, and about Lord Asriel's plan to build a bridge through the aurora to the city visible in its lights. In Chapter 11, just as in Chapter 10, Lyra disobeys Lord Fa and Farder Coram, who want to negotiate with the Sysselmen of Trollosan for Yorick's freedom. That won't work. As Lee Scoresby tells her, the townsmen will just move the armor to a new hiding place as soon as they find out that the Egyptians wish to free the bear. So Lyra, who has learned from the symbol reader where the armor lies, goes straight to Yorick and tells him. As always in this novel, the rebellious daughter seizes control of the narrative from adult authority figures, guided by the dust that speaks to her and by her own fierce sense of right and wrong. One more thing worth noting about this chapter. Lyra wakes from dreams of her great imprisoned father and falls back to sleep thinking of him and his splendid ambition. This is a pretty tough irony, foreshadowing the conclusion of the novel. Now, this pair of chapters is followed by a second pair that features Lyra's developing bond with Yorick. In Chapter 12, the alethiometer tells Lyra to veer off the path to Bolvangar and follow up a mystery in a nearby village. Once again resisting the authority of John Fa, she insists on going with Iorek Byrnison to discover Tony Makarios, last seen in Chapter 3 with a group of children waylaid by Mrs. Coulter. Tony is proof, though not exactly living proof, of what the gobblers do to the children they take. Severed from his demon, he is a kind of pathetic zombie, wandering through his living death with a small fish clutched in his hand, asking where Ratter, his demon, has gone. The other characters describe him as horribly mutilated, and he dies within hours of his rescue. If you want to understand the loyalty Iorek Byrnison feels toward Lyra, think of Tony. The armored bear and the half-boy could hardly seem more different, but whatever may be the Panzerbjorn equivalent of Tony's awful fate, that's what Lyra has saved Yorick from. Chapter 13 begins with Tony's rescue, followed by his death and cremation. The rest of the chapter is taken up with two important conversations, as Lyra questions both Yorick and Lee Scoresby. From Yorick, she learns how bears achieve immunity against deception in combat. By not being human, he tells her. And this knowledge will prove crucial in Part 3, when Lyra and Yorick together defeat the king of the armored bears, Iofur Raknison. From Lee Scoresby, she learns another lesson about trickery, namely, that the skull her father displayed to the scholars in the retiring room at Jordan College was almost certainly not that of Stanislaus Grumman, as he claimed at the time, but simply a stage prop calculated to gain financial support for his enterprise. During the conversation with Yorick, Lyra plots her own bit of trickery. She and Farder Coram had captured a metallic fly spy sent by Mrs. Coulter to track Lyra down. Lyra gets Yorick to create a metal container the same size and shape as the alethiometer with the fly spy trapped inside it. This pair of chapters completes the first movement of Part 2. The next chapter opens with Lyra's abduction by Samoyed hunters, who deliver her to Bolvangar for a fee of 12 gold coins. With Lyra, we enter into the experimental station, where Pullman's science fiction version of child sacrifice is carried out. Next time, we'll finish our discussion of Part 2 with a look at the second movement.